Hey, my friends, Pastor Derek here. I'm glad you're with me. We are in our Bible reading plan and our Christmas devotional. And those are just some of the ways that we are trying to stay connected and worshiping our God while we are in a very busy season, maybe the busiest season of the whole entire year. It is December 12th, and I want to offer you a thought from our devotional today. It's called I Am Loved, and it is from the passage is Exodus 3, verses 13 through 15. It's where Moses is basically minding his own business. He had punched the clock, he's working, he's out with the sheep and out in the wide open places, and he basically stumbles upon and finds a bush that is consumed with fire, but it's not burning up. And he goes over to see what's going on, and he hears the voice of God coming from within. And it tells him to go back to Egypt, and that he wants God wants Moses to bring the people of God out of Egypt, out of their exile, out of their slavery, into a land that was promised way back to Abraham and his son and grandsons. And Moses is like, whoa, I think you have the wrong guy. And God says, no, go. And Moses says, well, I don't even know if my people start asking, who do I even tell them you are? And he said, tell them that I am Abraham's God, Isaac's God, Jacob's God, your whole descendants God, the God you have worshiped, but not known by name. You tell them that my name is I Am. That will be a forever name through my title throughout all generations. And we kind of say, we know that God is called I Am, but what does that mean? It just means, I think, in part, maybe large part, it means that God is always with us. Blow our mind, he is outside of time. So he is as much right now with Abraham, with Moses and the Hebrew people in Egypt, with us today. God sees and is present in all of that. And so that's really wild to us. But he wants us to know, he wants Moses to know, he wants his people to know, I always see you. I'm always there. And I love you. And it talks about, in this devotion, about a young lady who remembered, in one of the hardest times of her life, remembered this in a church, and a youth pastor that was wearing a little lapel pin, back when those things were popular, right? That said, I am loved. But in her lowest moment, she remembers that. And she seeks counsel from a godly person in her life. And she is reminded afresh through this whole turn of events in the darkest times of her life that she is loved by God. And so I think that as we think of that, we can go into this Christmas season and use the little things, like a little lapel pin. Maybe it's the star on the tree. Maybe it's the angel hanging on the tree or somewhere else. Maybe it's a nativity. Maybe it's those things, the angels, and we're reminded suddenly that God said, there will be peace on earth. I bring you great news of great joy, of peace on earth. And we should look at the little things that we have, even decorating our homes or we see around, that will point us to God. And those little things, hopefully, can be big memories, true memories, the God who loves us and cares for us. He remembers you and he loves you and he's calling to you in these times. If you're reading in Hebrews, it kind of goes along the same lines. In verse 1 of chapter 1, it says, in the past, God spoke through the prophets and the ancestors and in many ways. But in these final days, he spoke to us through his son. He spoke to us through Jesus. Jesus came to earth. He was born. That's what we're celebrating. And it says in chapter 2, which is today's reading, if you happen to be there, it says, this is why it's necessary for us to pay attention to what we have heard, or else we may drift away from it. It says in the later verses in chapter 2, it says of Hebrews, it says, he's not here to serve angels. He's here to serve human beings, Abraham's descendants. He is here. He is our high priest who represents us before the creator of the world. Wow, he is here. He has been tempted as we have been tempted, and he lived perfectly. And he did all of that because he's connecting with us. God sent his son to the world not to live as some alien or stranger in the world, but to live among us. He taught us. He loved us. He lived with us. He laughed with us. He nourished us. He brought us conviction in our hearts because of who he is. He gave us faith and hope and peace and joy. He offers that. Forgiveness. He was a sacrifice to bring us forgiveness and hope. He was our sacrifice. So when we face these struggles and temptations and very busyness of life that pull us away, may we remember, like it says in that verse, it says, pay attention to what you have heard. So when we see the little reminders, like the lapel pin that was in our devotion, or like the Christmas decorations, the nativity, remember of God's love for you. And I pray that blesses you as you're being a part of this season, and you will worship, even in the moment, our great, great God who cares so much for you. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.